Good call.
Will we have an option to buy the picture?
That's a good point.
I'm sure that could be arranged.
Yeah.
I would know because I thought I might, if they want to field this, pass it around. Okay.
Have you ever talked to anyone who's watched this on the cable channel?
I have Mike's, well, not this one.
Yeah, this one, I just wonder how, because we're going out, we're streaming live. What?
He said we don't get it.
Okay.
I guess he tried to. 2 times.
Okay.
Oh, no, Dish one.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you have Charter?
Nope. So,
7 o'clock, we're close.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, it's right on 7 p.m. here, so we'll call to order the July meeting of the Farragut Visual Resources Review Board. The first item on our agenda this month is the approval of minutes from the June 24th meeting. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hope everyone had a chance to take a look at those from our last month's meeting. If there's no further discussion, is there a motion for approval?
motion for approval.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Second item on the agenda tonight is we have a new board member joining us this year, Mr. Ed Anderson.
Hello.
Right here. So, welcome to the board. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right, so we had some wall signs approved between our last meeting and tonight. 3 there, Perceptics, Go Glamorous, and Low T Center. Any questions from the board on those, or Ashley, is there anything that you need to tell us about those?
No, sir.
All right, so we'll go on into ground mounted sign applications. So first item on the agenda tonight is the Egg and I, one that we discussed last month. And so we're back to talk about it again this time.
Yes, sir. Just as you eloquently said, this was a discussion for that tenant panel that occurred last month. At that time, the board recommended that the applicant replace the tenant panel that was completed without a permit and with the yellow background. The recommended panel would pardon me, would maintain the same background color. It was recommended that the panel maintain the same background color as the remaining tenant panels. At that juncture, the applicant was not at the meeting. We do have someone here tonight from the Egg and I to answer your all's questions as it relates to this, because they are back to request a modification to that recommendation that was made last month, in an effort to keep the yellow background for that tenant panel sign that you can see on the screen in front of you there. Staff recommends that the board uphold the action that was taken last month, but certainly the applicant would like to discuss those modifications with you this evening.
All right, as I recall our discussion from last month, we were trying to be consistent with the other panels on the sign and with other signs in the town by having the white background while leaving the other lettering and color schemes as they are today. So you're here representing the Egg and I tonight?
Yeah, would you like
Yes,
to
sir.
walk over?
Please.
Well, first off, thank you very much. And I apologize for not being very prepared, as I'd mentioned earlier. I think I only found out about this about 8 hours ago. Not from you folks, but from our folks. So
Sure.
I hustled down here from Nashville, and I think I have two.
Would you mind, sir, please give us your name?
Sure, my name is Robert Glenn. I'm the Regional Vice President for Egg and I Restaurants. We're based out of Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
Oversee all corporate operations. This Lovell Road location is one of our corporate-owned locations.
All right, thank you.
No
Go
problem.
ahead.
Apologize. I think I had two concerns. My first was, if I'm understanding correctly, the comment that it was a permit that was not approved or paid for. However, I do have copies of the receipts that the permit was paid for. So by definition, then approved would be my first concern, because if it was paid for, then also when we hired our local sign company, they went through the proper approval process, and this was the rent that was given to them. So I think our largest concern is probably, we're certainly willing to work with the color scheme, and we understand that and the thought process. But certainly our concern is, why would it ever get approved in the first place, and then the permit get approved and then paid for?
Okay, well, we'll address that with
Sure.
town staff, because last month's the first time it came before our board.
Certainly.
And at that point, it had already been installed. So
Understood.
we'll have to kind of look at the
Yes, ma'am.
timeline of
Yeah,
events here.
yeah, absolutely. And sign permits are paid for at the time of application, not at the time of approval.
Understood.
So whenever a sign application is submitted to the town, the applicant is required to make payment of that application at that juncture. It is my understanding that the rendering for the tenant panel did not come in until after it was already installed. So there's where
Okay.
the disconnect would be.
Then once it's already installed.
Sure.
And the applicant's contacted, at that point, there would be a fee paid, but it's a double permit fee
Sure.
since it was installed prior to approval.
Okay.
So I think what you're kind of surprised is that since you hired a sign person, that you thought
She
that-
got it all figured out.
And may I see what he,
Y-
you said?
certainly,
he-
yes.
Yeah, I would like to see what he, did you happen to tell them the name of the I mean, is this a?
You know, I apologize again, as I'd mentioned to
No,
him.
Yeah, that's what I was looking to see.
As I'd mentioned before this kind of formally got started, I apologize. Being based out of Denver, and we have restaurants in 19 states, we hire a company called M2 Development, and then they kind of oversee the whole project for us.
You thought that because that the sign.
No
person-
question, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, that's just kind of going about the process. I'm opening a restaurant here in Chattanooga in
Right.
3 weeks.
Yeah. Is this a local company, that did this, NAS?
I don't.
I don't want to speak out of turn. M2 Development's not local, but I believe that we almost always hire local sign companies from a cost factor, but I don't want to speak.
Yes.
So what will happen is M2 Development, which I understand is not, the board's issue, they present, here's the,
Yeah, did you see that?
what?
Does not accept responsibility for obtaining accurate code information for safe
Yeah.
signs. Yeah, on the right, did you see that? After you did all this.
I did.
Okay.
Our largest concern isn't really necessarily the color, because we want to be
Right.
good neighbors. Because we plan to build more restaurants here in Knoxville, because the first one, as we mentioned, opened up so well, and we opened up one in Bearden. I think our largest concern, I believe if I understood it correctly, and again, I was brought in the loop at about 6 a.m. this morning, was that there was a fine installed at a certain date for every day we didn't get the sign fixed. Am I correct on that?
Staff would have reached out to you that if there wasn't a follow-up, and I'm looking to Mark to help me here, if there wasn't follow-up to show good faith effort that you were moving forward with the board to obtain a permit, then there would be a citation
Sure.
essentially.
And we understood it. It was something along the lines, and again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but something along the lines of $50 a day at a certain point.
Yes, sir.
I don't think we necessarily have an issue changing it. We want to be good neighbors. It is going to cost us probably, $500-600, which certainly doesn't make me happy, considering that we felt we went through the proper process.
Sure.
And I think we feel we went through the proper process because we did. Though we hired a local sign company.
Right.
Yeah, to our understanding. So again, changing it over is not a big issue. We understand, we want to be good neighbors, but we would like the board to be able to give us a certain leniency, be that 30 days or something from today moving forward to be able to say, we'll get it replaced 30 days from whenever you guys feel comfortable.
I have a,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
want to ask Mark if it's okay. You know that on the website, or, well, I'm asking you if you don't mind. On the website, when we had a lot of these committees from Denver, actually, you know, one of the things we had talked about was putting a sheet of, a checklist of what, like, new businesses coming in. Do you remember that by chance, where that if someone wanted to know what they had to do, you know, like for signs?
There is a flow chart
Yes, flow chart,
associated,
thank you.
associated with the sign permit application that shows if you're doing a wall sign, here's the parameters. If
what
it's
you
a
need to
ground
do.
mounted sign, here are the parameters for it.
So I was just wondering if that's still in effect for most of the people that, with the signs and the contractors and stuff, where everybody's looking at me like they're really puzzled.
No, we're very aware of what you're
Okay,
asking for.
Okay,
Yes.
it's a checklist that, okay, this is what you have to do, to sort of help prevent this, because there for a while, I'm kind of maybe getting confused, or NPC or this, that we were having some issues with people coming in, contractors saying, well, we're confused, we don't know if this is right or this, well, and especially like new businesses from different states coming in, they definitely need that checklist to be aware of.
Yes, ma'am.
What's,
We'll make sure that it's
Okay.
still on the website and being handed out in the main office here.
'Cause-
But there is a flow chart that goes with it. With the
Right.
planning commission items, there is a checklist that they
Yes.
physically have to go through. With the signs, it's more of a flow chart, kind of
well, the
breaking down what
checklist
would be
was,
needed.
it's like, okay, here it is, and so that's something that, so, okay,
No problem. I'm not that well informed, so I don't have much more to say. My question is, what is the, just to be educated here, what is the Farragut town policy in regards to monument side colors?
They have to be consistent. The ordinance requires consistency with the panels. In this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Within
So
the
in
existing
theory-
sign, so.
Right.
I'm no lawyer, trust me. But in theory, if we contacted the landlord and made everybody do that same yellow, that would then be okay.
actually, the cream was what, but,
I thought that I read, again, that you kind of required cream throughout the city.
It's strongly encouraged
Some of-
that the white and the.
Sounds like something my wife would say to me.
Yeah.
Strongly encourage, which means do it.
some of them are not, some of them are
Yes, ma'am.
not, it's what you're,
The-
is
Yes,
that-
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
The language in the ordinance
Yeah,
is consistent.
changing the sign's not the issue. The biggest, because again, I've said this a few times, but we really, at the end of the day, want to do the right thing. We're going to be here for a while. It's mostly getting that extra time, the appropriate time to get it done. You got to get a sign made. I can't go print one up at Signs Down tomorrow. And, we're not excited about the extra money to have to buy a second sign.
Absolutely,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I can speak to what you're
Yes, ma'am.
currently asking is, certainly if we know you're putting forth a good faith effort to change it, 30 days is very acceptable to the town to give you that time to make, without doing any type of citations or anything, and
Yes,
to
ma'am.
further impede you. And
What I'd probably ask for the board, and then I have no issue doing that, I can take care of it with a couple phone calls, is if we could maybe receive something clearly stating exactly what color scheme you'd want that back to be, just so we can clarify. So, for example, please make sure your color, the back is this color beige, within this range to this range, you're okay with the red writing, just so we can put it to rest, so we can hand it to if we keep the same sign company, whatever, that we can make sure we're clear. Is that fair?
We had
Yes, ma'am.
discussed last month, as far as the yellow, that's not a problem if the background of the yellow is that beige. In other words, you're almost, if you're really wanting to put like the egg and I in, that, I think that what we had talked about was, like the glamour nails.
I think we said the same color as all the other panels.
Yes.
Right.
Same-
That's
So the same color as those panels right there is
Yes.
what you're looking for?
Yes,
Same colors
the
as the
gray-
panels.
The
That's
cream
what we're looking for.
Yes, ma'am.
background.
Okay,
The red and the egg and eye and the black is fine.
Fine,
understood, okay,
All
understood.
good.
yeah.
We can handle that.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Do we need to take another vote on this, or do we just need to?
no, if he's
Okay,
agreeable to
very
go
well.
around,
I
along
can
with
take
the
care of it.
previous
All right.
recommendations, then.
Thank
I'll take care of it, I promise.
Perfect.
We would
Right.
just need from you a revised rendering to show that prior to
Right.
installation.
Well, I'd draw one tonight at dinner, but I'll have somebody else send it to you.
Perfect.
No, we'll take care of it, and I'll contact our Vice President of Construction, and he'll be the point person moving forward to make sure it's handled.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for driving out here.
No worries. I'm gonna go get some dinner now.
All right.
Aubrey's is good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now,
All right, the next item on our agenda is Glamour Nails, in that same, panel. Same
Yes, sir.
sign.
Yes, sir. This is another tenant panel at the Shops at Level Place, very similar to the item previously requested. This tenant panel has also already been installed on the ground-mounted sign. Though the background color of this tenant panel isn't an issue, and it is very similar to the other panels. The lettering on the panel, the light blue, may be difficult for some passersby to see. So staff recommends either darkening the blue or outlining it in black to make it a little more visible.
Do you know, how tall those letters are? Y'all have any idea? I've looked at it driving by, but,
I couldn't tell.
Driving by, I can read the sign just fine.
yeah. Because they seem to be, I mean, for that panel, they seem to be pretty tall, is what I was.
Yeah.
It-
And it's
I
readable
think-
from Level Road.
Based on this schematic, it looks like it's probably 12 inch, well, that may be the face itself, but 12 inches by 57.5 inches, so just under a foot. I would think the G would be
Panel.
just under a foot.
Yeah,
12.
What is
Okay.
8 inches? The letter,
8 inches.
the little letters.
Yeah, they're tall enough. It's just, are they dark?
I didn't see the. I didn't
Yeah.
see the-
I think the yellow background of the
I
egg
do
and I
too.
washes out
I
the
think
rest
that's
of
the
it
problem.
because I drove by there
That's-
today to
I did-
look at it, and I think the yellow just takes over
It takes, it,
when you're looking at it.
Yeah.
But when I drove up, I mean, it's very clear to read it if I just look at that.
I agree with her. I think that the first thing you see is the yellow.
It's overwhelming.
And
It
it's overwhelming,
distracts.
so
Yeah,
that
distracts, right.
takes away from, I don't know that, I mean, in this case, as far,
I think their sign's fine.
I do too, I do.
Yeah.
Do you?
I agree.
Yeah, I was sort of hidden that it's tall enough, the letters
Yeah,
are
it's
large
tall
enough.
and to
Um,
have them to change it because the color is just, I do think the yellow is really distracting for that. And you can read it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
easy to
You
see
can
from
even
Level
see the
Road.
little
Oh, yeah.
hand thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion on that, panel?
What to approve as is?
You can approve as is or recommend a change or?
Okay, I move that we approve as submitted.
Okay. Do we have a second? We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so the next one is Reliant Title, which is, going on Concord Square.
Yes, sir. A tenant panel at Concord Square. You can see the rendering before you certainly, but this panel, we felt like is legible and architecturally compatible with the other tenant panels within that monument sign, and staff would recommend approval.
Yeah, it looks very legible.
Yeah.
I see no issue with that one. I'll make a motion to recommend approve Reliant Title.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Home Trust Bank, which is formerly Jefferson Federal Bank, they want to change their sign to their new name and also orient it differently. And,
Yes, sir. This is a 40 square foot internally illuminated ground mounted sign for Home Trust Bank. They are proposing to remove the existing ground mounted sign and replace it with a new sign that will be oriented perpendicular to Kingston Pike. I know we noted in your all's packet that we would probably have some additional renderings. This is the sign rendering as you see it now. there is some landscaping shown, but we've asked the applicant for a site plan and landscaping plan just to verify those elements. So if you do approve the sign, we would ask that it would be subject to those two elements being submitted to staff for review.
So is this different from what was in our packet, or is this the same one?
Just
This
a
is
little
this,
different.
it's just a little different.
Yeah.
I think in your packet, it didn't have
Yeah,
the
numbers.
the numbers at the top, so they've shifted everything down. I believe the sign that's in your packet is 7 feet high. They've adjusted the height down to 6
Yeah.
feet in
And
this
the width
also.
is changed from 6 feet to 5 feet as well.
Yeah,
So what is the reasoning for the white space above there? They're just gonna leave that blank?
Is that their logo?
I
Oh.
I
could
thought
not
there
answer
was
that.
still something missing on that one. When I first saw
Hmm.
this one.
I can assure you this is the rendering that was submitted. It's not one of those errors in scanning that we've
Okay.
had in the past. So, this is as it has been presented by the applicant, so.
So it's showing that the letters of the Home Trust Bank have also shrunk down to smaller than 7 inches.
It's showing, the Home Trust Bank to be, just over 6.5 inches, 6 and 7/8 for the Home Trust and the bank, and then even the 24-hour banking in the since 1926 are shown to be just over 2 inches, 2 inches and a quarter. So, we have posed that to the applicant if that is
And that's one.
legible.
Well, I think it's legible, but along that stretch of Kingston Pike where they're located, the taller the number or the lettering, the better, I think, because cars are going by fairly fast. And, it might be, it's readable, legible.
Yeah.
But I just keep thinking they would want to make that white space a little smaller and make their lettering a little
Me too.
bigger.
I agree.
But
Yeah, I don't disagree with that comment at all.
Is this their logo? I mean, this is.
That must be a logo.
Yeah, I was wondering why they didn't put it sort of in the middle, or I don't understand why it's over to the right, but the little, what is that supposed to be anyway? Blocks?
I don't know. I guess
What is that?
Represents
like a home.
rooftops, I don't know.
Yeah, rooftops or home.
Rooftops?
Probably.
Yeah, maybe they're a mortgage bank.
Yeah, I guess.
We're waiting on a landscape plan. My only concern would be that the landscaping will eventually cover that 24-hour banking on the bottom.
You're
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
I mean, it's small, and it's at the very bottom, and just looking at this, the landscaping, in no time will grow right over that.
So they could almost move
point.
everything up a little,
Yeah.
shrink that white.
But if that's a logo, they
Right,
may
that's true.
fighting to keep it.
The landscaping will end up being planted on the end though, right? And
Is that,
landscaping will end up be planting on the end of the sign. I mean,
It
that's
will not be
generally what
in
we've
front.
said, try to plant it on the ends, but
It could very well
So
could.
this part will not be there then?
Well-
Where it will not cover the 24-hour
that, it
banking?
depends on how they plant it, but I would think we would sort of recommend to put it on the end. But even then, as it grows, it'll be hard to see the
Yeah.
small
Hard to
lettering at
see.
the bottom.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be hard to see it at 2 inches tall anyway.
I do too. It
Mhm.
almost means.
mean,
they
driving
need
by
to just
right
kind of
there.
move this up a little bit. And like you said, sort of get rid of the white space and make the letters up there a little. I mean, the numbers a little larger.
I think the struggle's been to stay within the parameters of that 6-foot maximum height. Especially given the first rendering that was submitted, so that's where this rendering has kind of come from, but I mean, certainly we will pass along any recommendations the board has to the applicant.
It looks like it was moved up.
Well, the 6 feet, the letters or the street numbers can be above the 6 feet.
Yes.
And right now, they're contained within the 6 feet, correct?
sir.
Shrunk everything.
So they have a little room there they could go up
Mhm.
Yes.
with the numbers.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
know we've encouraged situations where we don't just stick numbers on top of the sign, where we make something a little more visually appealing. So I like that they have them within the sign,
I do too.
but they could have a little more height, right?
Yes.
With the numbers.
Yeah, 'cause
So that could help them make the lettering bigger and kind of move things up a little
Could
bit.
they shift everything up to where the 6-foot mark is basically the top of that white box? And then put the numbers above that?
The numbers,
The 11916?
yeah, they could do a shifting. They would have to kind of incorporate the addressing numbers into that redesign, but I mean, they would have that full 6 feet of height for just their business signage.
Mhm. Well, that's sort of some recommendations, I think, if they utilize the full 6 feet for the sign. Now, that, we don't want to make numbers up there that are 12 inches tall necessarily. They can be a little smaller, but if they use the full 6 feet for the sign, they could shift up the white space, make the Home Trust Bank lettering a little bit larger, the 24 banking lettering larger,
Mhm.
put the landscaping on the ends as far as the taller items, and then that would make it a lot more appealing and
Visible.
legible and visible from Kingston Pike.
Right.
Because it's currently just a foot of base to this sign.
So the base needs to be taller, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
See, here it was taller and now it's shorter. Here they had more.
Right.
And now-
Yeah.
Right.
See the brick, are you talking about the brick base?
Yes.
Yes, on this one, right,
Right.
you can't, but the reason is, well, they have just two little sets of brick, and here they had 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think on that previous rendering, it was close to 2 feet.
Yeah, they
the
got 4
brick
rows of
base.
brick.
So we can add that,
They
our
had
recommendation
at one time
then?
4 rows?
Well, that's, looking at this,
Yes.
counting it, yeah, they got
That's
4 rows.
That's what I thought too, and
Yeah.
here they just have 2, if that's, from what I can see.
So is that 6 foot from ground level, or can that 6 foot
It's from,
start at the top of the
it's
base?
from ground level.
It is from ground level,
So-
so that's why they cut that.
So that's why they've got the smaller base.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So if we say a bigger base, then their sign's gonna get smaller.
Well, I mean, they could shift up with 4 rows of brick or 2 feet of base. They could still shift the sign upwards with the addressing going still above that 6 feet.
That would make up the
so-
course of brick, that they'd lose it. I mean, if they move the numbers up, they're gonna eat it up in the brick.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where that would then be
Yeah.
allocated to, so.
And then we're still back to
You're saying-
the lettering is very small then.
The same.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty level lot right there, because it's
Yes, sir.
6 feet above road grade, right? That's the actual, or something thereabouts, ground level there, so,
What is this gonna be made of?
okay.
The whole thing's not great.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this home trust sign?
And it's vinyl? What is it gonna be made, I mean, what is it?
It will be a plastic internally lit sign.
Will it be lit, did you say?
Yeah, internally.
Internally.
Well, that's why the white then. That big white
Yeah.
lit up at night, you'll see that quite a ways down Kingston Pike.
Maybe so.
Where did you see that, where it says internal? Did I miss something?
Yeah, it is.
Is that internal? Didn't see
It's, yeah, it's a really nice sign now.
that. Yep,
Mhm.
this is, it doesn't, with a bank anyway. The banks are usually. Oh, okay, I was looking at that. It says they changed all the pages, I didn't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Have they maximized the square footage they can have for this sign? Do
You
know?
have to check. Yeah, they're at 40, aren't they? No. Oh, yeah. So no, they wouldn't be.
So they're not, because the sign they have now is longer
Yes.
than this sign is, and it's, I mean, it's oriented different. So it's possible for them to make this sign a little bit longer,
Longer?
and they could rework it a little bit if that's, maybe that's a cost measure. I
have a question about the lighting inside. Is it the white gonna be lit up, the whole thing's gonna be lit up? What is, I know,
It was my understanding that the whole thing would be lit up,
Yeah.
that they're gonna, it's almost gonna be like a light box type feature.
okay, I still don't understand that white. I just think that white takes away from the whole thing, do you not? I mean, I'm sure that's a logo, like, I just don't know why they have to have that so large.
So I'll
Yeah.
definitely look into, when I leave here, I'll Google it and see what their logo is on the website.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if it's a logo, I could see why they're doing it.
Can see.
And if it's a light box, then that's, I mean, it will be very bright. You'll see it
Yeah.
everywhere on the road.
Mhm. I think that's a great question to ask them,
We will.
because that would be very bright.
And that's a,
To go for more of the external illumination, is that your thought, or
Not necessarily that, but just,
Again, they can change, I mean.
reducing the white area
Yes.
for it?
I
Okay.
think
Reducing the
that's-
white area
I
and-
just don't, that's so distracting,
And asking
almost-
whether it's gonna be lit up from behind, because that's going to be a bright light.
Sure.
And they can, depending on the wattage and, what kind of bulb they put in there, it could affect that too.
Mhm.
Well, look at the other companies that have those, that, but they're smaller and they're not like, I mean, this is gonna be really,
Mhm.
as you said, you could see it for a while, way down the road.
So I think we have several recommendations here that we want to make back
I
to
think we can come
them.
back next month.
Um,
Come back to the
I don't
board.
mind, we've done this in the past, where we've given a subject to approval and then had it emailed to us, which is acceptable, or in this case, with a lot of different changes, should we ask them to resubmit something for next time?
Well, what kind of a time frame do they have? When are they opening their doors?
I know they are eager to have this installed,
Well, they're open, because they're
Oh.
Jefferson
Yeah.
Federal, and they're just changing to home trust, so they're continuing to
Oh,
operate.
You're eager to
okay.
have it
Right.
done when?
as soon as possible.
Well,
Sure.
could you talk to them? I mean, do you see why we're a little concerned?
We would be glad to. We've already had an open dialogue with them, and we would be glad to share the board's either recommendations, whatever you all feel is necessary to do.
It's really just to help them too, because,
I mean, certainly since we're still waiting for the site plan and the landscaping plan,
you
so
guys can email it to us so that we do not have to wait a month, so this week.
Right.
we'd be
So
glad
did you
to.
talk-
I think that's a good point with the site plan and the
Yeah.
landscaping plan and all, so that it's all together.
Yeah.
And
We'd be glad
we
to.
can make a recommendation, and don't, I know you probably wrote down the brick color to match the building and all that.
Well, yeah. Thus far,
Yeah,
I have the landscape plan, the site plan, certainly, the shifting of the, addressing letters, the brick base to match the building to increase that, potentially elongating the sign, to essentially increase the square footage of it, to give them some more space to,
Shorten
Oh.
the
redesign.
Yeah, the why they have that, all of
White
that
space.
white.
Yeah, and then reduce the white area or a lighting plan to show how it'll be illuminated. So that's the punch list that I've captured. If there's more, certainly tell me.
The size or the height of the letters,
Yeah, the 24-hour
Yeah,
bank.
24-hour bank is
Oh,
small.
Yeah.
right?
Now,
And
see
the
if
land-
those can be,
Trying to
course, the
increase all of
landscaping-
the letters.
All of the lettering across
Yeah.
the board of the sign.
And then possibly putting the landscaping towards the end.
well, to me, Home
like
Trust
it
Bank
better
is
than
big,
this.
and Home Trust Bank is big enough letters, isn't
I think the Home Trust Bank's big. It's that 24-hour banking, and since 1926 it's going to be small. I mean, small is going to be hard to
Yeah.
see, and then being low to the ground like that.
Why did they
it?
put
And I
it,
hate to say it, it's not that important.
Yeah.
To them, it is.
To them it is, yeah.
I wonder why they didn't say,
Well, that's a good point.
You know, that's another
Probably
thing.
your logo.
I bet it is their logo. but I was
Probably
wondering
is.
why that they didn't center the bank under
Yeah.
Home Trust and put it to where that, we're getting picky now, but it's probably their logo, but.
I'll Google that when I'm done here.
Okay, I just, whoever did, need some work.
We'll
Okay.
certainly reach out to them
We'll tell
tomorrow
that
and
we
let
liked
them
it
know.
other than those things.
We'll be glad to share that.
It's a beautiful sign, except.
It was fine, except.
Well, and we did share our staff's concern, especially over the 24-hour banking and the since 1926 being just the 2 inches, that some of the reaction from the board may be the size of that, and if it's even legible from Kingston Pike due to the increase in traffic and the speed. So
Okay.
they knew that that could very well be a comment.
They do not have to change it if it is their logo, but I am curious why they wanted to center the bank, why they did not want to center the bank.
I'm sure they're
Since
trying
you're
to
putting all
anchor
those-
it with the way their logo's structured.
I bet it is
but-
too. I'm not familiar with this bank, are you?
Okay, well, any further discussion on this item? So I guess in our motion then, we're going to approve subject to all of those things. Which
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not gonna repeat.
Yes, sir.
And also that you can, email us any revisions so that we can take a look at over the course of the next month. So I'll go ahead and make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the last item on this agenda is the landscaping text amendment that's been proposed.
Yes, sir. Please bear with me here. This item involves a request to amend Chapter 4, Section 12, the landscaping provision, specifically D.2 and 3 of the Farragut zoning ordinance, to permit synthetic turf to count toward fulfilling a portion of the required landscaping around buildings and parking lots. As you probably well know, last year the town installed synthetic turf at Mayor Bob Leonard Park. That field was installed by Playwright, who is the applicant this evening for this request. Playwright has actually been approached by the owners of this 4-story bank building there in front of Renaissance.
I'm
To-
sorry, say that again.
This is for the 4-story bank
Oh,
building.
okay.
Specifically as it relates to this request, the installer was approached by that development at the possibility of using synthetic turf in portions of their parking area and in their landscaping. The current landscaping requirements do not permit such an option, and the synthetic turf would actually count towards the project's lot coverage, as this term is defined in Chapter 2 of the zoning ordinance. There are some benefits certainly to using synthetic turf instead of natural turf grass. Synthetic turf does not need to be irrigated, mowed, fertilized, does not have the need for herbicides or pesticides, and can look attractive year-round. Though staff felt like those were certainly,
Oh,
you're fine. Were certainly good points to synthetic turf. Staff feels, after a pro and con analysis, that we could not support this request. Synthetic turf may be acceptable for ball fields and potentially
That's okay, that's okay.
arid climates where you have seen that possibly applied. But we felt, though, it shouldn't be used in lieu of traditional landscaping in this area for non-ball field areas. We have
Okay, sounds
the concerns that we have listed, and I think are included within your packet, is the unnatural look that it could pose during the winter months. Certainly, what other non-live landscape applications could this potentially open up for review in the future, being pea gravel or crushed red brick? There are many different types of synthetic turf, certainly, as you see. and any amendment would be, have to be very carefully worded to prohibit any unforeseen problems as it relates to the different types of synthetic turf. Natural grass sequesters carbon and produces oxygen, where synthetic turf cannot perform those ecological functions. Additionally, natural grass provides habitat for soil organisms. Natural grass as a whole in an installation application would not have to be replaced in a certain period of time. Some of the research we've looked at shows that synthetic turf requires an 8 to 10 year replacement cycle. So that's another concern certainly that we would have. Natural grass regulates soil temperatures and surface temperatures, where some research has shown that synthetic turf can create a heat island type effect. So, and then certainly with stormwater runoff and water pollutants, being unable to filter those out. So that, I know that's a lengthy list, but those are really the reasons staff felt like we couldn't support this request. But certainly this request is before the board for your all's consideration and your discussion, and we'll try to answer any questions that you may have about it.
Okay, how much are they proposing to put down? Is it the whole area around the parking lots or signs or?
They've not submitted a specific proposal as to the square footage that they would be installing at this juncture. There are some areas, I think, to the rear of the building that they were looking at, and possibly at the front, but nothing yet. They were wanting to go through the amendment process to see, I think, if it was even viable.
When we started, or I had MPC, when it was brought to us in MPC, they had suggested the pavers, that they were, you know, the plan was there and how beautiful it was going to be. It was landscaped. Do you remember the whole picture of how everything was going to be and how it was going to match with Renaissance? Renaissance has none of the, none of this. And the only thing I know that this is in fields and playgrounds for children. We have never done this in shopping areas. And nobody likes to mow the grass, especially in that, and all this, but there are ways like that juniper or I love the way the red robin and all of those, they have a steeper grade, and that's what I was thinking, that they were talking about that area because of, because there's a little bit of grade there. They have managed to do beautiful and actually have had beautification. They get awards all the time for their landscaping. I don't see the purpose of doing this.
I don't like it, and I think
I don't like
it's a
this at all.
Pandora's box. Once we let one person do it,
Absolutely.
everyone's gonna want to start putting this in because they don't want to cut their grass, and then we're gonna end up,
Nothing but a plastic.
it's gonna be like Laura. I have small children, so my first thought was the Lorax, where everything was plastic trees, plastic
Yes.
grass, and that's
a good analogy.
exactly where I see this going, was straight towards
point.
Lorax. I'm like,
But-
no, I want trees, I want real grass.
I would love to see their plan at the beginning. Do you remember that plan? They showed us the picture. Do you guys remember?
The
And
landscaping
The
plan,
landscaping plan and the big, how the building was gonna look and how wonderful it was and how it was going to bring everything together and all of that. And no.
They've already started landscaping. There's
Absolutely.
plants in the islands, in the parking
Exactly.
lot, there's grass on the street,
So,
there's
I say no.
there's already landscaping. So if you have a mix, and
It's
that's my
gonna look
concern, is the mix and
ridiculous.
the amount that you allow. Because if you look at pictures where, some of the thicker, it looks much better than the thin, the shorter turf
Tile of
does.
it, yeah.
But if you look at it, that looks like real grass. But if you put it next to, you have it mixed, then it just doesn't look
Half the shopping
It
center
doesn't-
looks dead,
it-
and the other half's bright green.
right.
The
It doesn't look
very-
natural
Right.
at all.
The very comment was high quality. When this was started, this was going to
Right.
be a high-quality building with the pavers. And those pavers are great, and I understand that
Yes,
was,
ma'am.
they are beautiful. And now to cheapen this
Mm-hmm.
to this. It's just, I can't even believe, I don't even know where this came from. I wish they were here, because I was going to say that to them. But
And I think that's a valid point. Our concern is not just looking at the 4-story building, it's looking at it as an application town-wide
absolutely.
and the concerns that would arise in other areas of town, not just this site.
It's very
So-
high quality so far, and I've been very pleased, but I could not, when I read, I'm like, I don't believe.
My first
I'm
thought was
reading.
Lorax.
That is great.
I think I think Ed said it, it opens up to where they're gonna wanna put plastic flowers and flower beds and, cause they don't die and, you know, they're gonna, I mean, it just opens up a
work
big
to be
box, so
natural.
without too much
Yeah.
regulation on it, you know, it has to be between this height and this height, it has to be this color and, you know, it has to be replaced every 8 years. I think you're opening it up to,
Landfills
I mean,
are crazy and, but there are ways, like the juniper, like I said, if it's steep, I mean, take a look at some of the places we have here that are very nice on Turkey,
Yeah, the Red Robin.
The Red Robin is great, and then that,
Yes.
the Mexican place.
Abuelos?
Yes.
Abuelos is beautiful
It's
landscaping out there.
beautiful.
Mhm.
And you don't have to, that, if they're going to do this, do the mulch that, with those, I mean, there are other ways that's natural to do this without
Mhm.
having this plastic stuff.
And the town's had a long history of, you know, priding ourselves on the landscaping within the
Right.
town. And I think that's something that you have to balance and consider when reviewing a landscaping request of this nature, so.
Mhm.
And that being what this board is charged to review, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that this is not a good direction to go for the town,
No.
and it cannot replace natural grass and natural product. It will just never be the same, so
It's great on a ball field, but other than that, no.
that's about all. I think we're in agreement. Any further
Absolutely.
discussion?
No.
All right, we just need to make a motion.
Well, aren't you supposed to move to accept and then have it be defeated?
What was that we're supposed to move it to a positive way?
Yes.
In other words, we're saying,
I move that we accept this amendment.
Okay, all in favor? Well, first, we have a second.
that we accept this amendment?
I'm gonna vote no on it.
Oh, okay. Did you move? A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye, that we, no,
All,
that we.
all those opposed? Aye.
No.
Aye, No.
I think everyone's opposed.
Yeah, everyone's
Okay.
opposed.
Yeah.
We do
did
not
it
want
according
this.
to the-
Do you say aye or no? It's like that. Everyone opposed.
We got the point across.
Yeah, all opposed.
We've captured the motion, I think we're good.
Yeah, right.
All right, well, that's the last item on the agenda, so we'll
Picture.
end the official meeting for this evening. And,